What's going on, everybody? We got a Starlink mission to start the stream. We got Starlink 17-34. About 5 minutes out from launch here. How's everybody doing today? Everybody doing well? All right. There's a shot of a Falcon 9 out at Vandenberg. That's Slick 4 west, Slick 4 east, excuse me. West is down there. Today's launch is launching 24 Starlink.
Back retract.
Okay. That strong back retract. Strong back's moving back to 78 degrees. We are launching 24.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
Thomas gives us up Jizzlefa. 24 Starlink V2 minis here. The booster flying today is, first stage booster flying today is booster 1100 on its third flight on a 26-day turnaround. It's going to land out on, of course, I Still Love You. There goes the strong back retracting here. This has to be fake. There's no fog. Is this the first launch after the pause? Yeah. What's going on, everybody? How is everyone doing today? So we're launching due south out of Vandenberg. These are going to a polar orbit. This is SpaceX's 599th mission. 16th mission of 2026. No, Falcon 9's 599th mission. 16th mission of 2026. SpaceX's 626th total. All right. T-minus 3 minutes. Should be moving up to second stage liquid oxygen loading completion here and ground gas closeout.
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
There's the first stage. Should be coming to the second stage here in a moment. Almost there. Something like that, eh, Thor? 2 minutes. Second stage tank filling should be complete here soon. We should have a ground gas closeout.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
So Taylor, on this rocket, on this launch pad, that strong back stays there. It moves to the 78-degree position, and it stays there. It doesn't throw back like pad 40 or 39A. That is SpaceX's oldest piece of hardware that's used for launching, to my knowledge.
Ground gas closeouts.
There's the ground gas closeout. Next step here should be rocket startup here in about 20 seconds. What they're doing there is they're evacuating all of the propellants out of the launch structure because the fuel lines for the second stage are in there. You can actually see the fuel lines right there. Fuel and oxidizer, I'd add. They're evacuating all the oxidizer out. And when the oxidizer, the liquid oxygen, hits the atmosphere, it turns to gaseous oxygen.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There's the call for startup here. 54 seconds till we get a launch, hopefully. Clean your camera. That's not me. That's not me, fool.
Launch director, go for launch.
Launch director reports go. T-minus 40 seconds and counting. "30 seconds.
T-minus 30 seconds.
I just said that. "20.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Pad deluge system is active.
T-minus 10, 9, 8,
Sound suppression
7,
system should
6,
be primed.
5,
There it
4,
is.
3, 2,
Ignition.
1. Ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go Starlink.
Good. We got a midday liftoff here
Vehicle's pitching down.
out of Vandenberg of Starlink 17-34.
L1D chamber pressures are nominal.
Good call on first stage propulsion there. Falcon 9's doing the pitch over now, aligning itself to the proper heading on the compass for proper orbital inclination insertion. Let's see. Colloquially called a roll program in spaceflight. There it is. There's the roll. That's a big roll. Big old roll by the vehicle. You can see Slick 3 at the top of your screen. That's
Power and telemetry nominal.
Slick 3 East, Vulcan's launch pad. Good call on power and telemetry here. We should be hearing a call for supersonic here momentarily.
Falcon 9 supersonic.
Told you. Should get a call for maximum dynamic pressure. Peak aerodynamic compression load being exerted on the vehicle
Max Q.
due to aerodynamic drag. There it is. That's right, Beats. The first Vulcan booster just actually was received by Slick 3 the other day. We covered it on Space News. Yep, yep.
MVAC chill.
Second stage priming has started. Falcon 9 doing its characteristic radial out burn. Squeeze a little bit more performance out of the first stage. If you look, the first stage is slightly tilted up relative to the horizon. You can tell because of the plumes. If you look at the gases coming out of the rocket engines, they're asymmetric because the booster is flying like this. What happens when it stages, it'll straighten out and then it'll eject the second stage. And you'll know when it straightens out because the plumes will become symmetrical again, just like that. Okay, stand by for main engine cutoff, or MECO for short.
Stage
There you go.
separation confirmed.
There we go. We got a good separation. Upper stage ignition.
MVAC startup.
Good. Good upper stage ignition. Everything's looking good. First stage is going to coast now in preparation for its landing out on the drone ship. Of course, I still love you.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There's a call for fairing separation. Aerodynamic. It's the aerodynamic housing to house the satellites on the way up. Now, SpaceX will reuse those. They will come back down. They actually end up, they have little thruster jets on them. So if the fairing's like this, it separates in two pieces. And then, you know, you see it flipping away in the second stage camera. And what the jets are going to do is turn them so the aerodynamic part of the fairing is going to go through re-entry. The fairing's actually light enough and a big enough surface area to not require that much of a thermal protection system. It's not very high mass comparatively to its volume, giving a very high coefficient of drag and a low ballistic coefficient. Meaning it's like if you were standing at the top of a tall building and you had a piece of rock and a piece of paper and you dropped them, the rock's going to go straight down until it hits terminal velocity or hits the ground. Right? The piece of paper will just... That's what the fairing does. It's basically like dropping a feather. So it will go through some re-entry, but it'll make it through because it's so light comparatively to its size. The fairings are made out of carbon composite and aluminum. They're very, 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 very light. And then when it makes it through, it'll open up a parafoil, and it'll basically fly around like an airplane, like a glider, and then it'll land like a seaplane in the water, and SpaceX will fish those fairings out and reuse them. I try to make sure every launch is a fun time, Ponzister. Yeah, they seem boring. I don't think they're boring at all. I don't think this is boring. I think this is great. Okay. What weighs more, a ton of bricks or a ton of feathers? Really? Trick question, man. They both weigh the same. It always impresses you how much SpaceX tries to recover and reuse. You gotta, to maintain a high launch cadence, Older Buffalo. You want to launch this thing all the time. You're gonna need a lot of fairings. You're gonna need a lot of first stages. You're gonna need a very big amount of second stages. I mean, think about this, dude. SpaceX launched, I think. Okay. SpaceX launched, they launched, what was it, like 170 times last year? That's 170 second stages in a year. That's pretty crazy. That's an upper stage every 2 days. More or less. That's ridiculous.
Stage
like,
1 entry burn startup.
Think about the mass
Stage
production
1,
here.
STS has saved.
A second stage every 2 days? Okay. There's my favorite part right there. First stage is slowing itself down. The first stage, remember I was telling you about the fairings, right? Fairings are really, really light, so they just coast through reentry. The first stage is a little bit different. First stage is a lot heavier, all right? It's a lot higher mass, so it has to slow down by firing
Stage
its
1
engines.
entry burn shutdown.
Firing its engines also becomes its heat shield. That shields the first stage in a cooler column of gas. And actually works on a similar principle to a heat shield on a capsule. You know, it actually slows the booster down and keeps it cool. It's its thermal protection system for reentry, which is really cool. I think that's really neat. It's my favorite part. Supersonic retropropulsion is what it's called. It's an idea that was pioneered by NASA for Mars entry, descent, and landing. SpaceX just uses it here. First stage is now getting back down into the lower parts of the atmosphere. You can see it by the grid fins shaking around. A lot of aerodynamic compression is happening on the vehicle. Do they save the second stage? No.
Stage 1 transonic.
Stage 1 is back below the sound barrier here.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
The flight termination system on the second stage is saved, indicating that if something did go wrong with the second stage, it's going fast enough to re-enter and none of it needs to come back. They don't need to blow it up. The re-entry will do that. Stopping right now is not going to get you to space. The staging velocity that we're looking for in the second stage over there is 20, I think it's 28,000 for this type of orbit.
Stage 1 landing burn.
First stage firing its engines, drone ship right below.
Stage 2 in terminal guidance.
Grid fins steering that first stage back to the drone ship. Of course, I still love you. When the rocket gets to a certain speed, the grid fins lock into place, landing legs deploy. You're on thrust vector control guidance here at this point from the first stage. One engine. Down in the center, little bit of a rough landing out on. Of course, I still love you, but well within the bullseye there. Booster 1100 completes its third flight. Once again, the staging velocity that we're looking for here is around 28,000.
MVAC shutdown.
This one, yep, 28,554 at 138. That is good for a polar orbit insertion. We have second stage engine cut off there. Stand by for the call
Nominal
for
orbit insertion.
nominal orbit insertion. All right. Starlink 17-34, delivering 24 more Starlink V2 minis to SpaceX's Starlink constellation. There you go. We start the day with a rocket launch. How about that? Well, there it is. Yeah, that first stage came down a little rough there. They're gonna have to probably fix those landing legs. Those landing legs are a little broken. All right, cool. So, yeah, that's gonna do it for the coverage. That was fun, man. That was good. Always good to start with a rocket launch. All right. Yeah, slight hover drop. Did you see that? It stopped a little bit above the drone ship because the drone ship was rocking back and forth on the seas, and then it plunged it right back down. That was, I'm not going to say that was close to blowing up, but it was close to blowing up. But it's fine. It'll be okay. There's a crush core. Think like a crumple zone on an automobile. Like an automobile nowadays is designed to absorb the kinetic energy of impact by crumpling. It basically crushes the part of the car that the people aren't in, and it keeps the part that the people are in safe, right? Falcon 9 has that in its landing legs. It's using an aluminum honeycomb crush core. Similar idea. If it comes down hard, right, like that, it's going to crush all the crush points in the landing legs, and it stays up. That absorbs the kinetic impact, preserving the booster. It basically sacrifices the landing legs for the booster to keep the booster intact. The booster's the expensive part. The landing legs are not. You know, the part with the 9 rocket engines, that's important. That's the part that costs money. Crush cores are easy to make. Engines, not so much. They're definitely replacing those crush cores, Thomas. I could say that with pretty high certainty. Crumpling cars are why they get totaled versus repaired like older cars, right? Yes and no. Crumple zones are one of those safety things, John, that I think is just a good idea. You can put crumple zones into old cars if you really know what you're doing. In fact, I'll probably end up doing that with our car, just to be sure, you know. It's a smart idea. Basically, you bend certain pieces of metal to absorb the kinetic impact, right? Also, with old cars, you don't want to get skewered by the steering column, which does happen if you're not careful. Yeah, the car is fixable, but you're dead. So I'd prefer the car being totaled and people being alive. Like, I'm saying that as much as I love automobiles. Like, no. No. Anyway, so speaking of automobiles, is it time for Winter Car? I think it's time for Winter Car. I'm going to jog the YouTube stream here, and we'll switch over to that. Stand by for a momentary loss of signal. I'll see you guys in a moment. Thank you for watching the Starlink 17-34 coverage. I had to check. I've lost track of how many freaking Starlink launches there are. That was already SpaceX's 16th mission. We're only a month in. They've flown 16 missions, which is basically one every 2 days. Even with a freaking FAA grounding. This is great, man. I love it. Keep doing that. Anyway, I'll be back in a moment. Thank you very much for watching.